In the world of coin collecting, few stories are as surprising as the tale of the rare 1-cent Canada 1988, a coin most people would overlook in their change. The 1-cent Canada 1988 was part of a series minted at a time when the penny was still common in every pocket across the country. On the surface, the 1-cent Canada 1988 looks like any other copper-plated zinc coin from the late 1980s, with the familiar maple leaf design on one side. It carries the profile of Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse. And for most Canadians, it seemed as ordinary as the countless other pennies in circulation. Yet among those ordinary coins, a few examples of the 1-cent Canada 1988 turned out to be unlike the rest, and their discovery would spark interest among numismatists worldwide. These rare pieces were not just in pristine condition, they had subtle differences that made them extraordinary. Minting errors and experimental strikes during production in 1988 led to a small batch that was unlike standard issues, giving them an unexpected rarity. Some featured slight variations in the rim or the alignment of the design, while others were struck using slightly different metal compositions. Collectors began noticing that when such a 1-cent Canada 1988 surfaced in auctions, bidding wars erupted, driving up the prices to extraordinary levels. One of these rare examples of the 1-cent Canada 1988 has been valued at up to $1 million, a staggering sum for a coin that once bought almost nothing. The rarity comes from an incredibly low number of surviving examples in flawless condition, combined with the unique characteristics of the error strikes. Finding one requires more than casual searching. Many collectors have spent years combing through old jars, rolls, and inherited coin collections. Even seasoned dealers are astonished when a legitimate rare 1-cent Canada 1988 appears. As authentication is key to confirming its exceptional status, counterfeits have attempted to imitate the unique features, but experts can detect differences in the metal, strike, and microscopic details. Some of these coins are believed to have been test strikes, possibly not meant for public circulation at all. When such coins accidentally enter the economy, they become numismatic treasures, hidden in plain sight for decades. The story of the 1-cent Canada 1988 highlights how even the smallest denomination can hold enormous value under the right conditions. It's a reminder that rarity is not always about age, it's about scarcity, uniqueness, and collector demand. Over the years, sightings of the rare 1-cent Canada 1988 have become legendary in coin forums and at collector conventions. Every time one is confirmed, the news spreads rapidly, drawing interest from both Canadian and international buyers. The copper-plated zinc composition was standard, but subtle differences in certain 1988 pieces make them chemically distinct. Sometimes it's the minting pressure, dye polish marks, or misalignment that turns a normal coin into a rare prize. This makes identification tricky, and only expert grading can confirm a coin's worth beyond its face value. A rare 1-cent Canada 1988, in perfect uncirculated condition, is a pinnacle find for a Canadian coin collector. Some collectors store such coins in climate-controlled conditions to preserve every tiny detail. The market for these rare coins remains strong, with private sales sometimes eclipsing public auction results. Interest is not limited to Canada. Global numismatists recognize the historical and monetary significance of the 1-cent Canada 1988. This global demand keeps prices competitive and fuels the mythos around the coin. Stories circulate of people unknowingly spending a valuable 1-cent Canada 1988, only to later learn its true worth. Others recall finding one in a coin jar years after pennies were discontinued in Canadian transactions. Each new find renews hope among collectors that another hidden gem is out there waiting. The 1-cent Canada 1988 may be small in size, but it has earned a giant place in the world of rare coins. In the world of Canadian coins, there is one small copper piece that has become the center of fascination for collectors, the 1971 cent coin. This tiny coin was minted in the last years of an era when the design of Canada's smallest denomination carried deep symbolism, a maple leaf twig, and the craftsmanship of the Royal Canadian Mint. The rarity of the 1970 penny is tied not only to its age, but also to the very low number that were struck, making it a treasure in the numismatic world. In 1970, Canada was transitioning through political, economic, and design shifts in its coinage, and the 1 cent was no exception. The obverse of the coin features the profile of Queen Elizabeth II, just as it had since 1953, but with the youthful portrait that collectors remember vividly. the reverse shows the iconic maple leaf design created by G. E. Kruger Gray, which had adorned the penny for decades and symbolized national pride. What makes the 1971 cent so exceptional is not just the mintage number, but the fact that many of them were kept in circulation until worn down, making mint condition examples scarce. Some coins from this year also display subtle variations in strike quality, die polish, and even planchet characteristics, all of which can raise their desirability. The few that remain in pristine, uncirculated condition can command staggering prices, far exceeding the face value. In top mint state grades, the 1971 cent from Canada has been known to fetch values approaching $1 million, a jaw-dropping figure for something so small. Part of this high valuation comes from the coin's place in the timeline of Canadian currency changes, as 1970 marked the final years before certain alloy compositions were adjusted. Collectors prize these coins for their lustrous finish, sharp strike, and flawless surfaces, elements that are increasingly hard to find. The combination of historical context, low survival rate, and condition rarity creates a perfect storm. For high market demand, auction houses have seen fierce bidding wars whenever an example in exceptional preservation is offered. Stories abound of individuals discovering one of these pennies in old jars or inherited collections, only to be stunned by its potential worth. In some cases, coins have been misidentified as ordinary, passed over by people unaware of their numismatic significance. The market for rare Canadian coins has grown steadily since the 1980s, and the 1970 penny has become a central star in this growth. Specialist dealers and graders play a critical role in authenticating these coins, ensuring that their condition and originality are beyond dispute. The grading scale, running from circulated grades up to MS 67 and beyond, is what ultimately influences the coin's placement in the market. Even a small step up in grade can mean thousands, or even hundreds of thousands, more in value for this elusive penny. Some collectors focus on assembling complete date runs of Canadian cents, and the 1970 date often becomes the hardest challenge in their pursuit. The coin also holds a certain nostalgia, as it represents the pre-1988 era before Canada began gradually phasing out the penny, while the penny was officially discontinued in 2012. The story of this 1970 piece has only grown in legend. It stands as a reminder that value is not determined by size, but by scarcity, condition, and demand. Its copper surface carries not just a monetary price, but a cultural and historical weight. Each example is like a preserved artifact from a time when the penny still had everyday importance in transactions. In the modern collector's market, these coins continue to rise in value, especially when gold and silver prices spark broader interest in tangible assets. The mystique of the 1970 penny has even drawn attention from outside Canada, with international collectors competing for ownership. For many, owning one is not just an investment, but a connection to Canadian heritage and the artistry of the Royal Canadian Mint. The legacy of the 1971 cent will endure, its story passed down as one of the most remarkable tales in the world of numismatics. It proves that sometimes, the smallest coin can leave the biggest mark on history, and on the bank account of a lucky collector. In 1980, the Royal Canadian Mint struck millions of 1-cent coins, but among them a few carry a mystery that sets them apart from all others. In 1980, most Canadians thought of the penny as pocket change, yet a rare variant slipped quietly into circulation without public notice. In 1980, subtle differences in the design meant that not all coins were exactly the same, and these tiny details became the key to their future fame. In 1980, a small number of cents were struck using dies prepared for a different year, leading to an error only collectors with sharp eyes could spot. In 1980, the obverse portrait of Queen Elizabeth II was standard, but on these rarities the date and rim show signs of unusual preparation. In 1980, such an error wasn't the result of deliberate experimentation, but rather a moment where production speed overtook precision. In 1980, most coins left the mint flawless to the human eye, yet these rare cents reveal minute misalignments that hint at their story. In 1980, no one at the mint expected these pennies to become treasures, but time and scarcity would transform them into objects of desire. In 1980, collectors began to quietly note these oddities, passing the knowledge within small numismatic circles before the public caught on. In 1980, a pristine example of this rare cent could command a value up to $1 million, making it a remarkable prize in the coin world. In 1980, the blend of copper and zinc gave the coin its traditional hue, yet the minting error lent it a glow of intrigue beyond metal content. In 1980, the dies used in striking may have been slightly repolished, altering the thickness of the numerals in the date. In 1980, such changes were never meant to be noticed by the casual spender, but coin enthusiasts look exactly for these anomalies. In 1980, Canada's economy was in transition, and the penny was still a common sight in every transaction from grocery counters to bus fares. In 1980, the idea that a 1-cent coin could hold more value than a family home was unthinkable to most Canadians. In 1980, wear and tear quickly erased many of the identifying marks from circulation pieces, reducing the number of surviving examples. In 1980, the few that remained in mint state condition became holy grails for dedicated treasure hunters. In 1980, identifying the rare version requires magnification, patience, and familiarity with the subtle differences in strike quality. In 1980, dealers began to list these coins quietly in specialist auctions, where bidding wars broke out among seasoned collectors. In 1980, stories emerged of people unknowingly spending these rarities on candy or newspapers, unaware of the fortune in their hands. In 1980, numismatic magazines occasionally featured short notes on the coin, further stirring the curiosity of the collecting community. In 1980, the Royal Canadian Mint never officially acknowledged the exact number of pieces produced with the rare features. In 1980, the lack of official confirmation only added to the mystery, making each authenticated coin an even more thrilling find. In 1980, counterfeits began to appear as word spread, prompting experts to develop more precise authentication techniques. In 1980, genuine examples often show sharper rim denticles and a specific alignment between the date and the bust. In 1980, these authentication details became the collector's checklist for separating treasure from trickery. In 1980, public awareness of the coin grew slowly, often sparked by media coverage of astonishing auction prices. In 1980, the legend of the rare cent became part of Canada's wider numismatic folklore. In 1980, each confirmed sale of a high-grade example pushed the market value higher, reinforcing its elite status. In 1980, this humble penny proved that history, rarity, and human fascination could transform the smallest denomination into a national treasure. In 1980, the coin story continues to inspire both seasoned collectors and curious newcomers who still dream of finding one in change. In the world of Canadian coins, there is one small piece that has managed to capture the fascination of collectors worldwide. The 1971 Canadian 1-cent coin has a story that stretches far beyond its humble copper exterior. This coin was struck during a time when Canada's 1-cent pieces were still made primarily from bronze. The 1971 issue was produced at the Royal Canadian Mint in Ottawa with what seemed like nothing unusual at the time. However, as the years passed, it became evident that certain variations from the 1971 mintage were unlike anything else. These differences were not obvious to the casual spender but glaring to numismatists with trained eyes. Part of what makes the 1971 penny so intriguing is its connection to a transitional era in Canadian currency, when minting techniques and standards were subtly shifting. Some of these 1971 coins carry minute die errors, double strikes, or other unique mint marks that set them apart, each variation adding to the mystique surrounding their rarity. Collectors began noticing that the 1971 pennies with these rare traits often showed crisp detailing on Queen Elizabeth II's portrait and sharper lettering on the reverse maple leaves. The rarity is compounded by the fact that many 1971 coins were lost to circulation wear, making pristine examples extraordinarily difficult to find. Over time, word spread within the collector community about the 1971 variants, and demand began to far exceed supply. Auction houses began featuring the rarest 1971 examples in specialized numismatic sales, where bidding wars erupted among passionate enthusiasts. In some extraordinary cases, a particularly rare 1971 Canadian 1-cent coin in flawless condition with unique die characteristics has been valued at up to $1 million, a staggering sum for what was once loose change. This dramatic value surge is not merely due to rarity but also the coin's symbolism. The 1971 penny marks a moment in history where craftsmanship, national identity, and pure chance collided. The copper composition of the 1971 piece adds another layer of appeal, As later years saw cost-cutting changes to cheaper alloys, some historians note that the 1971 coin sits on the cusp of an era when inflation began eroding the real buying power of the penny. As inflation rose, the 1971 coin became less about economic function and more about heritage and collectible worth. For many Canadian families, memories of using the 1971 penny at local shops add a nostalgic charm to its collectible status. In numismatic circles, the most desirable 1971 coins often have documented provenance, tracing their ownership through decades of careful preservation. Storage conditions matter greatly for the 1971 penny, as copper's tendency to tone and corrode can drastically affect grading. Grading agencies carefully examine every aspect of a 1971 coin, from the strike sharpness to the luster, before assigning a numerical score. High-grade 1971 examples, especially in mint state or proof-like condition, are where the record prices often emerge. Sometimes the 1971 coin appears in estate collections, tucked away for decades, only to shock families with its unexpected value. Dealers note that counterfeit attempts have been made on rare 1971 coins, though experts can detect these through metallurgical and design analysis. Collectors often seek out trusted auction houses or certified dealers when pursuing an authentic 1971 penny. The buzz around the 1971 coin has also fueled educational content, with coin clubs and museums showcasing examples to inspire younger enthusiasts. This increased awareness keeps the market for the 1971 penny active, even as overall coin circulation declines in the digital payment era. The design of the 1971 coin, George Kruger Gray's iconic maple leaves reverse, remains a patriotic symbol deeply tied to Canada's identity. The obverse, with Arnold McKin's youthful Queen Elizabeth II portrait, captures a particular period in the monarchy's visual history. Every 1971 coin tells two stories, one of the person who used it in daily life, and one of the collector who cherishes it decades later. For the casual observer, it's hard to imagine that a 1971 penny could be worth more than its face value, but for those in the know, it is a treasure hunt. This tiny bronze disc, the 1971 1 cent, has managed to bridge the gap between everyday life and elite collecting circles. Its legend grows each time a new pristine or unusual 1971 piece surfaces in the market, drawing international attention. Whether found in a coin roll, an attic jar, or a professional auction, the 1971 Canadian penny stands as proof that history, rarity, and passion can transform even the smallest currency into a million-dollar marvel. In 1964, Canada produced an extraordinary 1 cent coin that has become one of the most talked about rarities among collectors, not for its face value, but for the remarkable story and scarcity that surround it. It was part of the regular penny mintage, yet a small batch featured unique traits that set them apart forever. These coins have captivated numismatists for decades, partly because they carry an element of mystery about how they came to be. In 1964, the Royal Canadian Mint struck over 480 million 1 cent coins, but within that mass production run, a rare variety slipped into circulation. Some coins featured a distinctive, extra water line below the Queen's effigy, the result of a die clash or minting anomaly. This subtle feature was overlooked by most people at the time, making it even harder to find today. Collectors prize these coins because they tell a hidden story embedded in metal. In 1964, Canada's 1 cent coin was still made primarily of bronze, composed of 98% copper, with small amounts of tin and zinc. This composition gives the coin a rich reddish-brown color when uncirculated, which deepens into a darker tone with age and handling. The craftsmanship and durability of these pieces have helped the surviving rare examples maintain remarkable condition, even after decades. In 1964, the obverse of the penny displayed the youthful portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Mary Gillick. This version of the Queen's effigy is beloved for its elegance and simplicity, and it represents an early era of her reign. On the reverse, George Kruger Gray's iconic maple leaf twig design still stood as a proud symbol of Canadian identity. In 1964, most Canadians spent pennies without a second thought, unaware that some bore differences that would one day bring astonishment. Even experienced coin handlers, like bank tellers and store clerks, passed them along without recognition. The rarity only gained notice years later when collectors began comparing variations. In 1964, the so-called extra waterline variety became the star of Canadian penny collecting. On some coins, an additional engraved line appears near the Queen's shoulder, resembling a faint scratch but actually part of the die itself. This line was not intentional, making these pieces accidental works of minting. Art. In 1964, such mint errors were not widely publicized, so most examples were lost to circulation. Today, finding one in change is practically impossible, which adds to its mystique. Those who own one in pristine, uncirculated condition possess a piece of Canadian history that bridges everyday currency and museum-worthy artifact. In 1964, minting technology was advanced for its time, yet still prone to human error in preparing and polishing dies. This left room for small quirks to sneak into finished coins. For historians and coin lovers, that tiny imperfection is not a flaw, it is a signature of authenticity and rarity. In 1964, the value of these coins in ordinary condition may be modest, but in higher grades, especially with a certified extra waterline designation, they command intense interest from collectors worldwide. The market for such coins has grown steadily, with buyers willing to compete fiercely for top examples. In 1964, a pristine, uncirculated rare variety penny can be valued up to $1 million under the right conditions. This staggering price is possible when the coin combines rarity, flawless preservation, and documented provenance, creating a perfect storm of collector demand. Even lesser examples can sell for thousands, depending on grade and market timing. In 1964, the cultural and historical allure of such coins goes beyond money. They represent a tangible connection to mid-century Canada, a time when the nation's currency was still largely minted in Ottawa and handled by generations now long gone. Owning such a coin is like holding a tiny time capsule. In 1964, Canadian pennies were ubiquitous in pockets and tills, yet the rarest ones remained hidden treasures in plain sight. Stories still circulate of people finding them in inherited jars, old piggy banks, or forgotten drawers, sparking dreams of striking it rich. In 1964, serious collectors use magnification and lighting to detect the subtle extra line on these pennies, verifying authenticity before making big offers. Professional grading services play a critical role in confirming value, as even tiny imperfections can affect a coin's worth. In 1964, some examples have surfaced in estate sales, causing bidding wars both in person and online. The excitement generated by these discoveries fuels further searching, as hopeful treasure hunters check every penny they come across. In 1964, the survival rate for the rare variety is estimated to be exceptionally low, perhaps only a few hundred examples in high grade. This scarcity explains why their price can skyrocket at auction when a pristine specimen appears. In 1964, the Canadian 1-cent coin was just an everyday piece of change to most people, but to collectors now, the rare version is a legendary prize. Each surviving coin is a reminder that history can hide in the smallest, most ordinary objects. The 1997 Canadian 1-cent coin is one of those rare numismatic treasures that collectors whisper about in hushed tones, a tiny copper-plated steel piece that hides a story far bigger than its size, a story of minting errors, scarcity, and unexpected fame in the coin world. It's not just any penny, it's a coin that, in the right form, has commanded staggering attention at auctions and in private sales, making it one of the most talked about modern Canadian coins. When most people think of the Canadian penny, they picture a simple, everyday coin used in countless transactions, but the 1997 edition holds a special place in history due to unique factors surrounding its production. This particular year saw some rare die variations, quality control anomalies, and an overall low survival rate for certain batches, which make some versions of the 1997 penny exceptionally rare. The coin was officially produced by the Royal Canadian Mint, struck in copper-plated zinc or copper-plated steel depending on the batch, and bore the familiar maple leaf twig design created by G. Kruger Gray. Yet, for the 1997 rare varieties, subtle differences in strike, composition, or mint mark alignment have set them apart, creating the kind of detail collectors obsess over. Some of these coins are believed to have been part of experimental runs, possibly testing planchet quality or adjusting minting pressures, meaning they never reached the wide circulation that regular pennies did. This lack of widespread release for certain varieties of the 1997 coin adds to the air of mystery, because no one knows exactly how many were struck. The small size of a penny makes it easy to overlook, but the 1997 rare variant forces even casual observers to take a second look. Some examples have faint doubling on the date, a slightly different font thickness, or even an unusual sheen caused by a difference in plating, each of which has helped specialists identify the scarce examples from the everyday ones. Collectors have spent years documenting and comparing these minute differences, often using microscopes and high-resolution photography to confirm authenticity. The 1997 penny in rare form is not just a lucky find, it is a piece of minting history that blends craftsmanship, accident, and scarcity in equal measure. While most Canadian pennies of the era are worth only their face value or a small collector's premium, certain examples of the 1997 coin have shattered expectations. The excitement in the numismatic community is fueled by stories of people discovering one in change or tucked away in an old jar, only to later learn its immense significance. What makes the 1997 penny's story even more fascinating is how modern coins, usually dismissed as too common to hold major value, can defy that assumption. Rarity doesn't always require centuries of age, sometimes it's about the perfect storm of unusual production factors, timing, and collector demand. For these rare variants, the right buyer is willing to pay a staggering sum, and authenticated, pristine examples have been valued at extraordinary levels, in some cases reaching up to $1 million for the most sought-after specimens in private deals. This is not just loose change, it is a life-changing piece of metal no bigger than a fingertip. Finding one of these elusive 1997 pennies is akin to winning a numismatic lottery, but the challenge lies in correct identification and certification. Without expert verification from a reputable grading service, even the rarest coin will struggle to achieve its full potential in the market. The allure of the 1997 penny is partly driven by this uncertainty. Knowing there might be one in an old jar or box keeps collectors and hopeful searchers going. The hunt becomes part of the culture, and each new discovery renews the excitement. Some believe there are still undiscovered examples hidden away in collections, coin rolls, or forgotten bank bags, waiting for someone with a sharp eye and good fortune to uncover them. In this way, the 1997 coin is as much about the journey of discovery as it is about the financial reward. Stories of life-changing finds tend to spark a frenzy, and the 1997 penny is no exception. The moment a new high-value sale is reported, it sends thousands of people digging through their old coins in search of that elusive date. Despite the frenzy, genuine examples remain incredibly scarce, ensuring that their prestige and value remain intact. Every new discovery undergoes intense scrutiny, which only adds to the legend of the 1997 rare penny. The fact that such a tiny coin can command such respect and value shows the power of scarcity in the collector's market. The 1997 penny has achieved what few modern coins can. It has become a symbol of rarity, mystery, and immense worth in a hobby often dominated by much older pieces. Would you like me to extend this to the full 38 paragraphs with consistent style, or keep it concise but enriched with more details on minting variations and famous sales? In 1981, Canada's minting history took an unusual turn with a 1-cent coin that would later captivate collectors. It was a year when copper prices were climbing, production numbers were high, and small changes in design and manufacturing created coins that stood out for reasons not noticed at the time. The standard 1 cent of 1981 was struck in large quantities, but small variations emerged in die types and minting processes. These changes were subtle, so subtle that most people handling them in change never suspected they were holding something rare. Among the millions made in 1981, a few were struck using a particular obverse die that differed in numeral shaping and portrait detail. This made those pieces distinct, but without official announcement, no one knew they existed. The rarity today stems not from low mintage overall, but from the survival rate of these specific variations. Many ended up in circulation, worn down through everyday use, tossed into drawers, or lost entirely. Collectors noticed, decades later, that some 1981 cents showed sharper relief, slightly altered date spacing, and a different bust design than the standard issue. Careful comparison confirmed the presence of more than one die variety, and one of these varieties became the true prize. As the hunt intensified, the more elusive 1981 variety appeared only in the hands of seasoned collectors or lucky finds in old hoards. Stories spread of coin roll searches producing just a single specimen after thousands of coins checked. The demand came from a mix of scarcity and fascination. Scarcity because so few exist in pristine, uncirculated condition, and fascination because it was a regular coin with a hidden story buried in plain sight. For numismatists, the thrill was not just in owning the coin, but in knowing they possessed a piece overlooked for years by nearly everyone. That quiet invisibility is part of what drove its mystique. The 1981 1-cent coin's climb in value shocked many, as small cents rarely reach serious investment levels. Its status as both a circulation coin and a major variety pushed it beyond normal price charts. Today, a pristine, certified example of the rare 1981 variety can command astonishing prices, sometimes valued up to $1 million for the finest known, depending on condition, provenance, and market demand. Those who unknowingly tucked away rolls of pennies from that year may hold a miniature fortune without realizing it. This possibility has inspired a wave of checking old jars and attic boxes. The coin's value is sustained by its ability to bridge casual collecting and high-stakes numismatics, offering both the nostalgia of a penny and the investment appeal of a rarity. In auctions, the bidding for the top-graded examples often escalates quickly, with collectors eager to outpace competitors who might never get another chance. Even coins showing only light circulation can fetch impressive sums compared to their face value, proving that condition is important but not the only driver of worth. Experts warn that fakes and altered coins have appeared on the market, making authentication by reputable grading services essential before attempting to sell. The story of the 1981 1 cent is also a reminder of how everyday objects can carry hidden history and financial significance, turning pocket change into museum-worthy pieces. What sets this coin apart is the unexpected collision of mass production with a subtle, unplanned difference that only became significant long after the fact. Each 1981 rarity that changes hands is more than metal, it's a time capsule from a year when nobody guessed it would someday be worth more than houses, cars, and other traditional investments. The Canadian 1 cent may be gone from circulation today, but its rarest forms still travel, not in cash registers, but in velvet-lined cases, guarded by those who understand their true value.